What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 6, Episode 9. And I know that crew on that yacht is about ready to take all them women home. So we see the ladies get up and we start to see them get ready right for yoga before breakfast. So during yoga, we see 4 ladies because not all of them joined, but we see Brittany, Whitney, Angie, and then I think Heather. They're all doing yoga with the captain. And they start to ask about each other's mornings. And then, of course, we get Brittany complaining about how Meredith kind of just goes to 100 on her because she brought one little thing to her. And I'm kind of with Meredith on this point. Brittany, you didn't just bring one little thing. You brought some type of rumor about my husband that was on the TikTok and you didn't tell me about it. You showed Whitney. But as yoga continues to go on and Brittany continues to complain, Heather does bring up something. She's just said, you know what? You better be ready for what's going to happen today because of what you brought to the table in front of other ladies. And I can agree to that because we all know how sometimes Meredith gets very passive aggressive. But as the morning continues, we see Bronwyn with that unicorn with Jared's voice in it, brings it as a gift to Meredith or as a gift or sacrifice. And we eventually see the ladies agree to kind of throw the unicorn in the ocean to make Meredith feel much better. Now, say what you want to say about delusional Brittany. I don't care if it was a toothpick, a bow rat. I don't care what it was. If it's mine, it stays on this boat. And then if something wants to go over, then it can be you. But don't take my belongings and then throw it over because you don't like me that day. But we see both ladies dressed up in those, I guess, fish costumes, that lobster, and I guess one, I forgot what the other one was, but they dressed up in the costumes and they throw the unicorn overboard. Then we finally arrive to breakfast. Now, I don't know why Brittany keeps choosing to sit next to Meredith. I mean, Brown, why didn't you sit next to Meredith so those two couldn't have been passive aggressive with each other? But however, they sit next to each other and breakfast begins. And of course, Meredith with the passive aggressive behavior. We see the ladies start off with a very quiet breakfast. And Whitney, of course, she just breaks the ice. You know, Meredith, how's your toe? It's good. I'm a survivor. I can withstand, haters and all this, whatever she said alluded to saying to Brittany. But I'm like, Meredith, if you got that much gusto, sweetie, turn around and say it to her. She's sitting right next to you. But of course, she doesn't. She then turns to Whitney and it's, I have a problem with you because you saw the video and you didn't come to me about it. And I'm with Whitney on this one. She said, yeah, because I know it's fake. And I gave her the choice, you to tell her now or I'm going to tell her, staying out of the situation, but at the same time being a friend to both of them. And we all see that Meredith accepts that. And then we also get to see, Meredith still being passive aggressive to Brittany, flicking her hair, turning around. I'm not talking to you, but you're talking about me, Meredith. Say what you have to say to me, to my face, like a grown woman. Don't start the conversation. Don't start the side talk out the side of your face. Don't start with passive aggressive. If you have something off your chest, say it. Meredith really annoyed me in that moment more than she usually does. But as the ladies continue to do their back and forth, it kind of gets a little bit aggressive. And then we start to see, of the touching and the finger pointing. And I feel like the crew, can these women hurry up and just get off this boat? And I'm glad it's the last day. But the ladies do switch seats. So I think Meredith switched seats with Whitney so that, the tension can, go down. So as Whitney and Meredith switch seats, we see Bronwyn trying to calm Brittany down. And of course, Meredith gets a little mad because Meredith doesn't know what's going on. She's in this heated argument. But Meredith did say out loud to everyone, if anybody supports Brittany, because she's done with her, if anybody supports Brittany, I'll be done with you too. And yeah, I would feel some type of way. Why do I have to not support her at all? There may be some type of resolution you two can come to. Or you can just be done with her and just coexist in the same rooms and you don't have to speak. But don't put me into it because you two are into it. Now, as the argument continues to go, Angie did come up with a good point. How can we support you not talking to Brittany? Then we can't support Lisa with what she said about Bronwyn's husband. And I did that. But of course, Meredith's going to take up for Lisa. Well, how about we just break this cycle and we cut it off at Brittany, which I don't think is fair either. It's not. If you're not going to support Brittany, then we're not going to support Lisa and what she said about Bronwyn's husband. And then we see Bronwyn try to chime in with Mary, and Mary wanted absolute no parts with that because she's right. They're not going to listen to God. There's no point in her saying anything. They want to get their point across, so let's just let them do it and stay out of it. However, breakfast ends on that note, and we see that the yacht has docked on the side. And finally, that whole ship crew is like, good, they get to go home. So as we see the ladies, they're all getting ready to leave. They all are leaving the ship. They packed their bags. And of course, Braun was like, look, I booked my own flight back home. I'm not riding with these women. And I wouldn't either. They just too much drama. But As the ladies get their little farewell from the crew and Heather hands them an extra little wad of cash. Heather, you could have sent that to me, honey. But anyway, Heather hands them a nice little wad of cash and thank them for the trip. We also see that one of the ship's crew forgot something, and that was the unicorn with Jared's voice that Meredith and Bronwyn threw off the ship. They had picked it up. I guess they saw it in the water and it's like, oh, let me get this unicorn back to them. They picked it up and they gave it back to Brittany. Now that was absolutely hilarious because they were not going to say anything, probably like till later on in another few episodes that, yeah, we threw your unicorn off the ship. Now what? But she got her unicorn back. I was wrong for touching her stuff. You don't touch her personal belongings. You don't gotta like her, but don't touch her stuff. So of course, when Brittany gets back her unicorn, she's like, "Oh, this joint is wet. Like, who threw this Who threw this overboard?" And of course, she's gonna ask all the ladies. And Bronwyn is looking worried. I don't see Meredith yet, but as the episode goes on, we pretty much see that Meredith doesn't care. And both of the ladies confess that they threw it over as a prank. I don't know why that's a prank because she pretty much could have lost that and never got it back. But however, they say, "Yeah, we did it." Well, Meredith said she was with her, but Meredith, whatever. They say, yeah, we did it. Bronwyn is still trying to pass this off as a joke, but it's not a joke if everyone's not laughing. And of course, we see Brittany's hurt because she didn't think that they would go to that much extent. And of course, the other girls are just like, no, that's not funny at all. Now, as we further get down to the same episode, in the next scene, we see the ladies all flashing back to Meredith acting completely, I guess, insane for their word. She was acting erratic on the plane because Brittany was talking about her marriage. And in this moment, once again, I got to agree with Bronwyn. I would have booked my own flight home too, so I would not have to deal with any of that. Now, for what the ladies are describing, it seemed like she was going off the entire plane ride, because for you to wake me up out of my sleep, Meredith, girl, catch a grip. If it wasn't true, then you wouldn't be really tripping about it. But it's making me think the way Meredith is acting, there's some truth to her husband having a side family or some side chick. I don't know. Because why be this upset that you're interrupting an entire plane ride? And then to hear that she was disrupting first class, Meredith would have had to be put in the back. I can't do that. And not just Meredith, it was Lisa too. Two classist women in first class. They would have had to be put in the back. I don't know why, but I guess in mid-flight it got even worse. But they would have to be put to the back. If you cannot just sit there and coexist without handling her once you get off the plane, without being put on the no flight list, then something needs to happen. You need to get yourself together. And then, of course, as we see it goes on, we see that Lisa and Meredith gave their watered down version, and we just don't know. We won't know what's going to happen or what happened on the plane unless someone filmed it. So in the next scene, we see Bronwyn and Mary sitting down to have dinner. And of course, like I said, Mary had said, you know what, you were wise beyond your years for having to choose a different flight because what we went through was crazy. And in other parts of the scene, we see the ladies all talk about what they experienced from Meredith while watching her be so aggressive on the plane towards Brittany. You even get to see Lisa and her husband talk about the experience on the flight. And of course, she's going to downplay whatever she did, whatever she said to keep Meredith riled up. And of course, she's going to say, no, I didn't say anything, to try to keep herself out of the issue. But even Lisa said that Meredith was loud. So then we get to see another meetup between Heather and Brittany. So the ladies sit down to lunch and they begin to discuss what happened on the plane as well. And it sounds like Meredith was just doing a lot of aggressive taunting towards Brittany. And as that was going on, Heather had said, she drifted off to sleep and then woke back up to, Lisa and Meredith still kind of aggressively taunting Brittany. And I guess that's when Heather chimed in and said, how about you both just stop? And then come to find out that Lisa and Meredith had then turned on Heather because she stood up for Brittany in that moment. And in that moment, I do feel bad for Brittany because no one deserves that. Like I said, Meredith is, she does aggressive, she does her passive aggressiveness and doesn't really say what she has to say. She'll rather talk to someone else. And then of course I know Lisa was chiming in, backing her up and keeping her in that mood. But to do that as an adult like that that's just uncalled for. That's not what you're supposed to do. That's just, just grow up. Just grow up. But we know Brittany, she'll say some things, but she's not really, she's not really about that. She's not about to throw her hands. But as soon as that plane would have landed, both of them would have had to see me out front, put your bags down. You did all that trash talking, put your hands up because it's about time to go now. Even a little bit surprised because why didn't the flight attendant tell them to stop? Because at the end of the day, that's their flight. Everybody's supposed to be comfortable up here. So if you can't, respect everyone else around you and the person in front of save you, then go in the back. Fine, we're in midair. Fine, you know what? When we land, we'll put you on the no-flight list, or we'll have you escorted somewhere towards security. But what you're not going to do is make everyone else uncomfortable on this flight. But as the conversation goes on between Heather and Brittany, Heather lets Brittany know, you know what, I'm on your side, because they definitely crossed the line, and I agree. Now, in this next scene, we see Whitney and Bronwyn meet up together for lunch. So, of course, Bronwyn had already heard Mary's side of what happened, but now she is going to hear what Whitney has to say, because Bronwyn has been hearing a lot of things. So Bronwyn gives Whitney the rundown of what Mary had said to her, but then we hear a little bit more information from Whitney. Lisa, of course, egging it on, and no one got up to say anything, which is disheartening, because as a flight attendant, I'm pretty sure those women would have got up and said something. But if nothing, then yeah, that's disheartening to hear, because that's to be on a flight and have to go through that is terrible. And for Meredith to try and coax Mary into also being against Brittany, that's a weird person, because even Mary has said, I have my issues with her, but I don't hate the girl. And I also agree with Bronwyn. It's kind of hard to believe that nothing was, Meredith wasn't reprimanded while on the flight. But yeah, I would have taken a video too. If you're going off this unhinged, then yeah, I'm going to need to record you, because I'm going to handle you once we get off this plane. And then Bronwyn also starts to talk about her husband, Todd. And shockingly, we discovered that apparently Todd has been cheating on Bronwyn, and he was caught on a flight. Now, Bronwyn also discusses that she believes this person because she knew where, the person knew where Todd was sitting on the plane, and they disclosed the flight, information of what flight he was on. And of course, Bronwyn says, you know what, I confronted him when he got home. And of course, he tries to pass it off as, well, you know what, ask your friends. This is probably like the type of gossip that you guys like to discuss. And she's like, nah, bro, no, you did something and you need to come clean. But in a turn of events, because she did tell Todd that he needs to stay in the hotel so he can go ahead and take his flight, we need to be apart from each other. In this turn of events, Bronwyn confesses that, if he wanted to see other people, fine, I want to see other people too. And had they talked about it earlier, she wouldn't have been as mad about it, because they've already had the conversation. Now, Whitney's sitting there all shocked and appalled, and I'm like, girl, me too, because that kind of marriage, no, honey, we not, I don't share. That's just me. I don't share. But if Bronwyn's okay with it, if she like it, I love it. Not saying that I agree with Bronwyn, but I do understand if we have a specific agreement, there's nothing for me to be mad about. There's nothing for me to be embarrassed about. And I think that's what she's trying to do. Get ahead of possible embarrassment or discretions from her husband that may happen. So when Lisa had made the comment of him possibly making out with someone else, she probably would have been like, you know what? Yeah, of course he is. I picked her out for him. Like I said, I understand, but that's not something I agree with. And as the conversation goes on, we'd also discovered that Whitney and Todd have had that similar, agreement as well. Because, during her time, her and her husband being on the outs and being together for so long, they kind of explored that option. But as the conversation goes on, we both discovered that both the ladies, they say they're both happy, but, if they're going to have stuff like that, there has to be rules. And Whitney did bring up something, voice your opinion, say what you want, communicate that. And if he breaks it, then yeah, it's done. We can't do this because you can't follow the specific rules that we both have set up for each other. And don't get me wrong, I get that they want to be evolve with each other and they want to stay in their marriages. But if we got to do all that during marriage, but can we both just remain single? We don't have to put a title on it. We don't have to run papers. That's just a little bit too much. Just stay single and have your fun. And in this next scene, we see Angie and her daughter before she goes to her next, I guess, Grand Prix show. I am glad that, Electra is big. She's finally sleeping in her own room. But yeah, I'm glad Electra is, big, getting older, doing her own things outside of, her mom. So, so she can grow to be her own individual person. Now we see Angie and Electra talk about her representing Greece if she wants to go off to the Olympics to represent Greece. And I'm understanding Electra at this point. Honey, I'm American. I really wouldn't represent Greece. And Angie, I really want you to kind of just lay off. Like, back up, let this child do what she wants to do and kind of grow as her own person. Everything doesn't have to be about Greece. Of course, your past, of course, who you come from is extremely important. And I'm not knocking that. but allow her to develop her own sense of identity as well. So after the scene of Angie and Alexa talking about their heritage, we also get to see in this next scene Heather meet up with late ass Lisa. I'd have left. Ain't nobody sitting there all day one day waiting on Lisa. So when Lisa finally gets there, we see the ladies slowly start to discuss what the interaction was on the plane with Meredith. And as they start to discuss, we learn that Brittany doesn't want to be around Meredith or Lisa, and I can see that. I would not want to be around two passive aggressive, then tauntingly aggressive women, you know, in any situation. Nobody wants to be around that. And in this moment, it's nice to see Heather stand up. It's nice to see Heather finally stand on her own and go against Lisa. Lisa, yes, y'all were. Y'all were aggressive with that girl. And y'all know y'all could be because you know that girl wasn't going to do nothing to y'all. Yes, you were. So it's nice to see Heather stand up against Lisa and defend someone. And Lisa, you guys cannot lie. If it started, first of all, even if you kept asking me to see the TikTok video, it's still no reason for anybody to be that upset and that aggressive in that manner at any point in time. So there's no excuse for whatever you thought you did or didn't do. But I don't believe Lisa. I never really do believe Lisa. She's always lying about something. And her favorite line is, you know, I didn't do anything. Yes, you did. You're always in something, Lisa. And as we can see with this disagreement with Lisa and Heather about the plane incident, we see Lisa is trying to rewrite history because Heather has not changed her story sense. We see Lisa is trying to gaslight her, and for Heather, it's just not working. Lisa, cut the bullshit. Y'all did it, and y'all need to own up to it and take accountability because you guys were wrong. And of course, in good old Lisa fashion, here she goes. She's about to try her fake cry, to which we never see any tears come from her eyes, and how she wants to deflect from the conversation by bringing up past things and stuff that has happened to Brittany with other people as well. And during that entire argument, Lisa did not take accountability for anything that she did. But then you tried to call out Brittany for bringing up Meredith's marriage, which was wrong, but at the same time, she still did not deserve any of the things that she did. She did not have to turn over the TikTok video. For real, Meredith, you go look it up since you want to know so daggone bad. But we see Meredith and Lisa sticking to their agreement, their little side agreement that they're always going to have each other's back. And in this next thing, we see Mary and Meredith then meet up. We see the ladies get together and they catch up. And of course, Meredith also returns, you know, how are you doing? And we all know Mary, she's not going to miss words. She's going to tell you exactly how she feels. And I think that is weird for Meredith to really act like you didn't behave like an ass on the plane. But as we see, Meredith is going to play this as I was venting to a friend, when you, from what we were told by the ladies, that wasn't just venting. You were definitely taunting that woman so aggressively that she had to be comforted by stewardesses and other people and actually cried on the plane. That was not venting. And right now we just see Meredith and Lisa both just trying to fully downplay and rewrite history of what actually happened on that plane. That is absolutely crazy. For you to say you had a 15-minute conversation and everyone says, no, that went on for hours. No, Meredith, honey, please, you are not a good liar as an attorney. And at this point, I can applaud Mary because she's trying to be super nice. And we saw the seating arrangement, but yeah, we see the seating arrangement and you were on the other side of the plane, one row up, but the planes are not that huge. You were not in that big of a plane where Mary couldn't hear you. And once again, if Mary could hear you across the plane, then honey, you were not quiet. It was not just a simple conversation that you and Lisa were having. And as we come to the end of this episode, we see that Meredith is trying to put the blame. She's definitely got her attorney cap on. She's not, she's basically denying a lot of things that could prove that she was wrong in the moment. And she's just, trying to finagle her way around, using specific words and things like that. Like she doesn't remember. No, you don't, Meredith. But okay. We see that she's going to try to blame this on Whitney, and no, Whitney's not even, to blame in this moment. So we'll see on the next episode. But tell me what you like, guys. Like, comment, and share. Bye.